Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. It is my favorite day of the week. What about you? It's Wise Women's Wednesday, y'all. Hello there, Doris and Jocelyn and Kathy. So good to have you here. And of course, you know the dream team is here. So say hello to Jenny and to Amber and to Lindsay. We're all here. We're all doing our thing. We're here to help you, support you, you know, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, we've got, coming up next week, less than a week away, is my goals planning webinar. Now, I look at goals in a completely different way than most people. And this is what I'm going to be explaining and sharing with you in the goals webinar. So that is happening next Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find it at savingdinner.com/goals. Okay. And if you don't have your seat yet, get off the stick and go get your seat. You know, we purchase seats from Crowdcast and we only purchase so many. So there's only so many seats. So my strong suggestion is that you get yourself registered right now, okay? And the other thing that you need to know, you can get one step ahead of the crowd if you want to and go get your journal, which is flying off the shelf at savingdinner.com/journal. This journal is completely updated from last year's. We added all the suggestions that you had and put them in here, and we made it that much more dependable, that much more usable, and a place for everything, right? That's so cool. I think you're really going to like that. So the other thing that you need to know is that we take and house all of our announcements in one place. And we do that so that you have the ability to find out about the journal. You have the ability to find out about, get yourself registered for the webinar. And even we've already had people getting lined up for the Rising Tide. Now, remember, you have to have your journal before you can get into the Rising Tide, but all that information is at savingdinner.com/announcements. Okay? Pretty cool, right? All right. So I need you to know about all of this stuff. And I mean, I'm super excited about this because this is an opportunity for us to really take the next level for the rest of 2022. If you can believe we're actually talking about 2022 already coming to an end. You're not going to believe this. Here it is still, it's August. We have some trees that are already turning, y'all. Now, I do live in the mountains and it is, North Carolina, and we've had some cooler evenings. We've also had a ton of rain. So I guess that means we're going to have an early fall. And fall around here is just glorious. Promise you, I will take pictures. I will do videos. You just have to see this gorgeous lake reflecting all those colors. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. So this week, first of all, did you see this right here? This is our fantastic quote of the week, which is so appropriate considering we're talking about emotions and feelings. Maturity begins when you can be right without having to prove the other person wrong. And there is nowhere else that you are going to see how important this is than in today's show, okay? Today's show is going to give you the goods. Today's show has 7 very valuable points that I promise you will help your relationship. They will help your relationship. You need to write these down. Or if you're not going to write them down, then for heaven's sakes, go to savingdinner.com and get our newsletter. And today's show notes will be in tomorrow morning's newsletter. And you'll get them right there. Is that a deal? Of course it is. Of course it is. I'm going to go ahead and bring TikTok on board. And we're going to get busy. because it is Wise Women's Wednesday. Welcome, TikTok. Welcome, YouTube. Welcome, Facebook. Today, our subject is absolutely imperative for those of you who are in any kind of a relationship. I will say this, any kind of relationship, because friendship, intimate relationships, marriages, whatever it is that we have, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this one sentence, and that is every single human being on the planet, when you cohabitate, especially when you cohabitate with somebody, you are going to have a conflict at some point. You are. You're going to have a conflict because I will tell you, every single person on this planet is not perfect. Perfect does not land this side of glory. It just doesn't happen, right? There's no such thing as perfect. You know what it is? There are a lot of imperfect people who all think that they're seeing things correctly, and maybe they are, and maybe they aren't necessarily. Oh, that D-Rock guy needs to go away. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, Corliss. So we need to learn how, when our emotions take off and go a little bit crazy, how do we manage our emotions? In other words, how do we argue intelligently, right? This is important and imperative if you care about your relationship. It is not about being right. Maturity begins when you can be right without having to prove the other one wrong, remember? But also so that you can actually repair a breach or a misunderstanding and move along. This is imperative. I mean, if we want the relationships that we say we want, then this is what we're going to do. Vibrancy on every level. Am I right? Hi, Deborah. I'm glad you're here. So let's get on with this and let's talk about what that wise women, honestly, they understand and know how to argue intelligently. Now you listen up. I'm telling you, if you're not going to take notes, then go get tomorrow's, then you can get the newsletter going to savingdinner.com and just sign up for our newsletter. Today's show notes will be in tomorrow morning's newsletter. I've got 7 things for you that are really going to help you out. Okay? Let's talk about this. So all humans engage in some kind of disagreement. Nobody is immune. We all have it. And just because an argument is coming down the path, it doesn't mean that your relationship's doomed, the other person is inherently flawed, or you are. It just means that this is part of the human equation. We have disagreements. But we tend to think that we need to avoid any kind of disagreement in order to keep the peace, right? No, not right. Because keeping the peace is basically stuffing your emotions. And on the other side of perfect glory, that's where things are just always going to be peaceful. But sometimes we need to sort things out. Need to sort them out. Hey there, Chris. Sue, good to have you here. So let's talk about this because there's a whole range of emotions that come up when you're at odds with someone, right? Anybody experience this? Come on, you know you've experienced this before. So especially when it comes to your spouse, especially when you're living under the same roof, those things come to full light sometimes, don't they? So let's talk about it. We all have our past experience, and remember, we bring our own baggage to the party, so to speak. Not just you, not just me, all of us collectively. We all have our emotional baggage. We all have some kind of trauma, cultural fill in the blank. We have patterns. We have experiences, past experiences that might have done something. But all of this compounded really blurs our perspective and how we see things, right? And when that happens, it puts us in a different light, perhaps, or at odds with our partner when we're trying to figure things out. So we bring all of this stuff to the fight, so to speak, all this baggage to the fight, and that's not necessarily a good thing because we could be completely on different levels, the whole time. So if we're going to have disagreements, and it's inevitable, don't you think we should learn how to do it intelligently, right? Don't you think we should do it in a way that doesn't decimate our partners, right? But instead helps us come together after a disagreement, or at least a consensus of what just happened. Remember, we always have the opportunity to step out and to evaluate what the heck is going on. We always have that opportunity. We don't have to just let our mouths run, because that's what gets us in trouble. And then also the thoughts that go on in our head and the way that we see things, it all gets a little wonky doodle and it doesn't help us. Hey, Amber, how are you? It's good to see you. So there are concrete things that we can do to manage our runaway emotions so that we can keep the objective of keeping a healthy relationship as our main focus and not the disagreement. How do you like that? I think that's so important. I mean, I want to say that again, because what we do in the heat of the moment is we focus on the disagreement, and what we need to focus on is the relationship. That's our main focus. We want to keep that intact. So I've got 7 things for you. This is where you want the notes to come in, okay? 7 things that you can do, or you can get tomorrow's notes simply by signing up for our newsletter. It's easy. Go to savingdinner.com and we're done. Hey there, user 619. Good to have you here. I'm talking to my TikTok folks as well as Facebook and YouTube, and we got a lot of people here. Oh, Alice, Tanya, Jeanette, good to have you here. Francesca, you too. Anyway, let's get busy. Number 1 is we need to stay calm. Now, remember we talked about it yesterday. You don't tell somebody to stay calm. That's like baptizing a cat, right? Anybody ever say that to you and it just, boom, the hair in the back of your head goes up? It's not a good thing. Instead, what we need to do is we need to step up to the plate, and we need to hold our emotions in place. Runaway emotions are like runaway trains. They're very dangerous. We don't want to do that because, again, what is our focus? It's our relationship. It is not the argument. Okay, keep that in the back of your head. One of the things that you can do, and my husband and I have done this, and it's a game changer, and that is set rules. Remember I told you, I mean, I've got food rules. I got rules for everything. Set rules for yourself. When you set rules for yourself, you are not about to cross that line. And, you both need to be, of course, respectful and honoring of the boundaries that you have already set ahead of time. And do this, not in the heat of the moment, but ahead of time, in order to preserve the sanctity of your relationship. Like different words that you won't say. Maybe you'll get some ideas of what some of these rules could be. But one of ours is that we won't go to bed angry. We can go to bed that we are in disagreement and that we will work things out. But we're not going to go to bed piping mad at each other and just turn each other's back. How well do you sleep after that too, right? Doesn't work real well. Hey, Jane, I'm glad you're here. So agree in advance not to lob bombs at each other and to keep your rules sacred. Don't break them, either partner. Number 2 is take a break if you're too heated. Not that I would know about that, but we do have a tendency to get too heated up, and then boy, oh boy, does that pot boil over. And what happens when we do that? What happens is we lose our grip. Not only do we lose our grip, but we lose our lip, and all kinds of stuff come out that we can't take back. We can seek forgiveness, of course, but we can't take it back. And let's remember, instead of saying you, use the word let's. That's so good. Let's have an agreement on such and such. Let's have an agreement that instead of this, we do that. When we use these words, it's less inflammatory and it's less putting someone in a corner. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Remember that. We all learned that, right? The other thing is you can always calm down and to be able to think more clearly. And this is an interesting part of brain science, by the way. When you're just hair trigger, that is the most primitive part of your brain working out, right? That's the most primitive part of your brain going wonky. But to get to the prefrontal cortex, those thoughts need to move up here to the moneymaker. This is your control panel. And this is where we think complex thoughts and where the abstract thinking comes. And this is where we can get back into alignment with the thing that we actually want, which is a solid, loving relationship with the disagreement resolved, just like that. That's why this all works. So that's one of the reasons why we take this break, is so that we can have this opportunity to think and to be clear and to be more loving. I will take a bath. I'll take the dog for a walk. Maybe I'll call a friend if I need to vent. And even I find that even a little bit dangerous. That's just, in extreme cases. But honestly, the very best thing that we can do is just take that time. Number 3 is to use non-defensive language. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? When you say, get this, you always, how does that make you feel? Now, you don't have to use the pointy finger, but the pointy finger might as well be there, because the pointy finger makes you go, okay, hold on. You back away and you're defensive. Of course you are. You're defensive immediately, and so is the other person. You always doesn't go anywhere, because you don't always. Let's just say you don't Napoleon Hill them. You don't win friends and influence people when you do stuff like that. What this is a fire starter. Have you noticed? I mean, that is a bomb that has been dropped. And it's just a matter of time before the whole thing goes up. So think about, how do you do this so that you don't do this, by the way? Think about the things that you love about your spouse. Think about the things that you love about that person and why they are so incredible. Mirror back what they're saying. If they say, it's frustrating when X, Y, Z happens. So mirror it back. So you're saying you're frustrated when X, Y, and Z happens. How does this all work out? I mean, ask questions, probing questions, and don't rebuff them with, yeah, but. You know what happens? You know what happens when we yeah, but somebody? We dismiss them. We dismiss their comment. We are not listening. And there's no better way to have a better relationship than to have your partner hear you and you to hear him or her, however that works, right? It's critical. And when somebody feels heard, they feel loved. And when somebody feels loved, they're going to give you a whole lot more latitude and generosity and grace. Am I right? Pinky's up on that one, I tell you. Number 4, don't blame. Don't blame, right? If you're raising an issue, talk about how you feel. This blame stuff is awful. And when they come back to you, don't eyeball roll and do all of this stuff. Because when you did X, I felt this way. Even better is when X happened, this is how I felt. These things, I know it sounds like we're walking on eggshells. We're not. We're being honoring. Walking on eggshells is a completely different discussion. That's all about narcissism and what have you. This is a different discussion. This is arguing intelligently so that we can get through this by feeling loved and loving your partner, and your partner feeling loved and heard. Feeling heard is everything. It's better than 100 I love yous. Am I right? It is. So remember something. This is the big deal. Sometimes what it is that they did something. They could have forgotten something, or they're just careless about something, but they aren't something. And when we say you always and you are, we're labeling and we're putting them in a corner, and there's nothing for them to do except come out fighting. And I understand that because I've been there and you've been there too. We can do better than that. Hey, Karen. Number 6 is to validate. We all want to be understood. Anybody here not want to be understood? Don't you think your partner wants to be understood too? What if we had hearts for one another? The way that we do when we watch the crying dogs, on the shivering dogs on the commercials, or the starving children in another country. I mean, we feel for that. We're like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. It's so awful. Empathy galore. But when it comes to our spouse and we're angry, we want to tear their eyeballs out and make them hurt. And that is the most primitive of feelings, but we need to pull out the empathy that we all inherently have and understand that it could be, the tables could be reversed. And we could be the ones needing to be understood at that time. We could be the ones needing the grace. So we all want to be understood, and we need to hear the words, yes, I understand this is important to you. Here's what I'm hearing from you. These are all important things. Then give that sentence space to land. Because when we give it space to land, then we give it space to be responded to. And also, number 7 is to listen, mirror, and respond in a way that says, yes, I'm listening to you. I'm not waiting for you to just take another breath so I can get my other points in because they're so good, right? It is responsive. It is caring. It is loving. It's because when they hear that and when they feel that, they understand that listening is part of this relationship and also is saying to the other person, I care about you, I love you, having a hard time right now with all of this stuff that's going on, but I'm here for you. We're going to work this out. And I'm so happy that you hear me. And I'm so happy that you love me. You're important to me, and I'm giving you the space that you need in order to get this all out. It makes all the difference in the world. Remember, when you're just waiting for someone to take a breath so you can insert your next zinger or whatever, you're not being loving. You're elevating your own point of view over the relationship. And that never goes well. And I mean, personal experience. I can say this. And those of you who might have a sharp tongue, I know I do. And it's something that I constantly have to tap on. Otherwise, it can just run away. And I will say that everything that we talked about today, absolutely everything, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy button easy, but this is how emotionally intelligent people handle their emotions in a disagreement. And this is how we walk through a minefield of emotions without blowing up, right? So we have to process this anger in a way that suits you, your partner, and honors the relationship. We have to practice this. We have to think about it. We have to process it. And we have to love above all else. Without love, this is the language of hearing another one. Love is the language of being heard. When we love each other through the tough times, even when it's not easy, even when you have to bite your lip a little bit, this is how you know that you're loved, and this is how you know that you're loving. So, what do you think of that? That's a big deal. It's hard, and I fail at this stuff all the time. But I share this for you. This is the top 7 stuff from psychologists who know, and marriage counselors, by the way, who have ideas on how to communicate in a way that is loving and that brings home basically a good relationship. Now, I don't want you to forget about next Tuesday. Tuesday, August 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern is our goals webinar. You can get signed up for it. It's absolutely free. savingdinner.com/goals, and go get your journal. These are flying out the door. savingdinner.com/journal to get the 411 on what that's all about. Meanwhile, we have one more day of content, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Be here. Be here. It's going to be good. We're going to wrap this whole thing up and put a bow on it. What do you think? I like that idea. Peace be with you. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.